Hey guys, so my name's Cheryl Harvey, and this is my film review, I guess, of Creed for my Comm 204 class. So Creed was released in fall of 2015, and this film addresses race and culture, um, and the culture issues of those without like a father in their life. So in terms of culture differences, I'm not really sure if it would be considered a co-culture or just normal culture, but it would definitely be the world of boxing. Alongside boxing, kind of going hand in hand, in this film would be like physical and like mental capacities and abilities and capabilities, because boxing isn't just about strength and agility. It takes a lot of mental focus, and mind games are also part of that. And then, in addition to showing me like the world of boxing, this film like also touches on issues of race and what sort of effects not having a father in your life for like whatever reason can like how it can affect you. So, as like I previously stated, the culture differences, for one, I'd label as a culture is the fighting world, the world of boxing. I personally like have always like viewed boxing negatively. I never really understood the desire to like go fight people and like willingly like take on like getting like hurt and punches to the face. Like I just don't understand it. But like this film kind of like put that in a different light and showed me just kind of like a different side to it, and that there's actually like an art to it, and that it's not like solely just about like bodily like harming other people, as like I previously had like viewed it. So obviously this film is set around boxing, but the cool cultures of boxing really like wasn't the primary focus of the film. It was just like what the setting was, in terms of at least like diversity issues anyways. And so like there were some instances where like race was mentioned, but I believe that like the underlying that it really wasn't. Excuse me. I believe that the underlying theme of the film. Hold that thought. I'm reading what I wrote. Okay, so there were some instances where race was mentioned, and I believe it was an underlying theme of the film. That's what I meant to say. But how they addressed it was like by not addressing it, in a way. Everyone was like treated as equals, like they should be. And whenever like race was mentioned, for the most part, there wasn't like a big deal made about it, and I really think that's how it should be. So earlier in this class, for one of our discussion posts, I like wrote that like we need to see race yet not see race, and I really think that's what this film did, and they did a really good job of it. So one of the other differences that this film dealt with, and that I personally felt was like more centered around, was not having a father figure, or like the sense of like belonging, and wanting to like find your place in calling. So for Johnson, he never met his father. His father died before he was born, and his birth mother like put him in. I didn't quite follow. She either like put him in the film or not film. Goodness, in the film he like Johnson was either just like put in like the child care and services by his mother. I didn't quite catch how he ended up in there. That was probably like my bad. But so, his father's wife, who was not Johnson's mother, eventually found him and took him in as her own. And so, like, he was raised well, had a great education. As an adult, landed a fantastic job, excelled in it, had promotions, but he never really felt like that's where he belonged, and nor like he didn't feel like that was his calling in life. And so he pretty much just like dropped everything one day to go pursue what he felt his calling was, and that was to follow in his father's footsteps and become a boxer. And so he sought out one of his father's old competitors, Rocky, from the Rocky movies, which I actually haven't seen. That's just a side note. And like, I understood everything that's happening in the movie without seeing Rocky movies, but I'm sure there were like golden eggs and whatnot scattered in the movie that I didn't catch because I hadn't seen the movies. But as a side note, so he sought out Rocky, and over the course of the movie, Johnson and Rocky like became super close, like family. And I honestly believe that Johnson saw Rocky as a father figure, and Rocky like sort of filled that void that Johnson had in his life. So throughout the movie, like, you just see like their bond growing. There's a specific instance where you really see how much they care for each other, especially Johnson for Rocky. Rocky was diagnosed with cancer, and he wasn't gonna fight it, but Johnson cared too much about Rocky and didn't want to lose him. So he told Rocky, he was like, I'm giving up fighting. I'm not gonna fight. I'm not gonna train anymore unless you fight this. So we were both fighting, and so Rocky agreed. And I just think that shows just how close they were, and how it's sort of like how it could be very similar to a father-son relationship. So between cancer and prepping for a fight, physical and mental strain was definitely brought up. I mean, not like in depth, but briefly here and there. And I think if like we pay close attention to the messages being told here, I think at least I learned something. I think potentially we could all learn something from it. One thing that I really liked was how Rocky told Johnson that his greatest competitor is himself. And I think that's a good mindset to have, that we can let others get into our heads all we want, but if we focus on being better than who we were yesterday, and constantly, maybe not constantly, but because then it can be an obsession, but when we are living in a way that it doesn't matter whether people think, say, or do, that we're really just trying to better ourselves, being a better person of who we are today, tomorrow. I don't know if that made sense, but I really think that was good, because we can let other people get into our heads and play games with us. But if we're just focusing on, hey, like, I'm going to be better than I was tomorrow, I'm going to beat this record of mine, I'm going to, not let them get under my skin because I want to be a better person than that. I just think that's a really good mindset to have. So it's a little side tangent there. So in terms of how this movie made me feel, definitely like sympathetic almost the entire movie. Sympathetic towards Johnson specifically. I definitely had me rooting for him. And so I felt different emotions throughout the film. When he had his victories, I was happy. When we found out Rocky had cancer, definitely felt sad, especially when Johnson and Rocky got in an argument over Rocky not wanting to do chemo. There were a lot of things that were said that would really sting, especially if you were as close to a person as they were to each other. And so I definitely felt that. There were the parts I found amusing, how Johnson introduced Rocky as his uncle, and the immediate comment afterwards is your uncle, but he's white. It was just really funny. Yes, it was about race, but it was done with a light heart. Wasn't super serious, and it was meant to be funny. Yeah, I just found it amusing. And at the end, when his adopted mom is watching his fight on TV, and she says something like, "You gave me a heart attack, but you made me proud." I thought it was a little funny, but also really sweet and touched my heart at the same time. And I really think that all these things were definitely what the film intended for you to feel. Everyone's gonna find different things in the film more funny than others. Not every person's the exact same, but in terms of that sort of thing. But I definitely think that this film accomplished what it was trying to in terms of how they're trying to make the audience feel and react to certain situations. In terms of conflict, every story has to have conflict, or else it wouldn't be interesting and no one would pay attention to it. So the conflict in this movie is very interesting because obviously there's the overarching, wanting to become a fighter and the obvious conflicts that are there because a fight definitely means that there's conflict, and all that jazz, and just the road getting to being a boxer and a contender. But there's also some other underlying conflicts that I saw, and they're more personal conflicts that I think each of us can relate to in some way or another. And that would be the choice of pushing past our own selves, working towards a dream, or if we say that it's too hard, we give up. And as it was stated earlier, that our toughest competitor is ourselves. And I think no matter who you are, what sort of life you live, we all have that inner battle with something in our lives. And so that's something I picked up on in the film. I don't know if it was supposed to be a main conflict originally, but that's something that I definitely noticed as sort of a sub-theme, I guess, if you will, of the film. So in terms of how this film, or these conflicts were resolved, I think the resolution was good. In the end, Johnson got to his big fight, even though he wasn't deemed the winner. He won the night, as stated in the movie. He overcame himself, he fought really well, and showed that he had what it takes to be a real contender in the world of boxing. And I believe that he also had finally felt like he had made his father proud. It wasn't, I don't remember if it was specifically mentioned in the movie, but it was definitely, in my eyes, it was definitely like something that was a driving force of Johnson's, wanting to make his father proud. And I think it directly influenced his choices, whether or not he knew it or not. And I think he accomplished what he wanted to there. He wanted to make his father that he never met proud of him. And I think his father would have been proud of him regardless. But it's that inner feeling that Johnson got that I think was resolved in the end. He got what he wanted. And so I thought that was really good. So one of the questions was like if I thought I could see myself in a situation like this and how I think I would respond. So in like reality, in like normal life, like I can't see myself being without a father or wanting to be a boxer. Like I have both my parents, they're great. No desire to be a boxer. So I can't really see myself in that situation. However, after watching like the film, I can sort of put myself in those shoes because the film definitely like made me feel for Johnson. Was very sympathetic towards his character and what he'd gone through. And so I can sort of sit back and like put myself in like his situation, and even though like I can do that, I don't think that I can even really begin to fathom like what it would be like even still in his shoes, in his situation, to be without a father, to be in like child services, to have jumped from different programs and homes, and and then like being found by my father's wife, who wasn't my mother, being taken in. I just, even though I can say, oh, like, I think I know what it'd be like, I have absolutely no idea. And I'm really glad that, I'm really thankful for that. But in terms of, like, Johnson, like, chasing after his dream and, like, overcoming, like, himself and wanting to make his parents proud, like, sure, I can put myself in those shoes. I have dreams, like, I have my own challenges that I have to overcome, and who doesn't want to make their parents proud? And that's something I can definitely relate with more. And so, yeah. If I was in his shoes, I have no idea how I would react. Johnson had a very strong and wonderful will and mindset, and I don't know if I would have the same, or if I'd be too broken, or have the same gumption as he had to overcome his past and himself in order to achieve his dreams. So overall, I'd give this film a 4 out of 5. And the only reason for the 4 instead of the 5 is just because personally, like, the movie isn't really my cup of tea. As I stated earlier, like, never really been a fan of boxing. This movie is very centered around boxing, so that's just a personal bias of why it's a 4. And a movie I'd add to this list is the 2015 Hidden Figures. It's really good. It deals with not only racial issues but also gender issues. and it's just a really, really good movie. I highly recommend it. So I know this is really long. If you watched it all, good for you. You're a champ. Thanks.